joining in. We are trying to have this session to introduce the guidelines, decode the guidelines, also try to clarify the doubts, if any, wherever we can, as per our understanding of CERT. And there are queries. We will be happy to take those queries ahead for for further clarification from CERT-In. That's what we can try to do on your behalf. So we try to have this session of interactions. Thanks everyone for being patient and joining this session from this link. I know sometimes it gets frustrating, but let's move over to the session. Let's focus on the outcomes that we want. So this. Yeah, sorry. So we have presenters. Those presenters will be taking care through that session, and also will be trying to take care of the questions wherever they are. So I request from my team, Suhasini. She is a GM, a General Manager of CyberSRC and Risk Advisory Portfolio. We have Sakshi, who heads the solutions, will be joining the session. And we'll be presenting for the session across them. And while I'll be there to take care of any doubts if you have, and we'll try to answer that. Thank you. Over to you, Suhasini. Please take care from here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. I'm here helping you out to decode the revised CERT-In guidelines issued on 25th July 2025. We will break down 3 provisions, share the implementation insights with you, discuss common audit gaps, and explore how both sides, auditors and auditees, can align more effectively to fulfill CERT-In's requirement. I encourage you all to make this session interactive. Drop your questions, your queries in the chat box, and we will address them during the Q&A and also maybe in the between, considering the timelines. So first, I'll introduce CyberSRC group. So we are CERT-In empaneled, ISO 27001, 9001 certified, SOC 2 compliant, and we are globally recognized award-winning organizations. We are backed by a very diverse and dynamic team, which have a combined 50+ years of experience under the belt. We have the domain expertise in cybersecurity, data governance and protection, IT audit and assurance, and compliance management. Our goal is to assist organizations globally, MSMEs, SMEs, and enterprise, enhance their capabilities and effectiveness in cybersecurity defense, minimize the enterprise and IT risks, manage security operations, and much more. So this is the agenda for you all to refer. We'll go one by one. This is not an exhaustive, but we'll try to make interactive for you all. First, we need to understand the objective of the document. So this objective of this guideline is to provide a structured framework for conducting cybersecurity audits, to provide the clarity for the auditors and both the auditees, and promoting continuous improvements in security. Here, the guidelines were also there, but they will talk about the newness in the terms of like what obligations comes under the auditee and what new obligations have arrived in under the auditors. Coming to the next slide, this is how CERT-In got the authority for issuance of this guideline. With respect to the IT Act, subsection 6 of 70B, CERT-In has issued guidelines that will that enforces the CERT-In for all the organizations across India to do the categorization and issue these guidelines. This guideline is applicable to all the auditors, certain empaneled auditors, and all the organizations, public, private sectors. So these guidelines basically apply to both public and private sector entities aiming to assess the cybersecurity, identify vulnerabilities, manage risks, and comply with the regulations and best practices. This is the most important slide that I want you all to go through it one by one, because this is the newly added flavor into this guideline, where we talk about the different types of engagements. Here, we are talking about the compliance audits, how the organizations need to evaluate their security practices to ensure they're adherent to relevant industry standards, regulations, and policies. And this is industry specific and regulator specific. For example, if you talk about ISMS 27001, what do you say, the HIPAA, GDPR, basically considering your particular sector and particular industry with respect to the particular regulator. For the risk assessment, we are talking about how we need to identify the process, how we need to evaluate the risks from cyber threats. We need to identify the vulnerabilities, considering that the severity associated to it, considering the business impact of the organizations. So it will deep dive into the how the organizational assets are identified, how their values have been identified, considering the assets criticality, all the assessments, the likelihood and impact of the cyber security incidents are being done under this assessment. There are some terms like you could see vulnerability assessment, pen testing. We are regularly, most of the organizations are continually doing this, but this guideline talks about particularly the audit frequency. What would be the audit frequency and how frequent these assessments should be done, considering this should be every year minimum and based on the regulations and the guidelines, considering the different sectors. If we talk about VA, PT, network infrastructure audits, we understand that how we need to, stringently we need to define our standard, our IT infrastructure, our network infrastructure, how we need to define the critical inventory. We need to identify the scope and ensure that the audits are happening frequently. And we need to understand the differentiation between these types of audits. If you talk about the operational audits, it is talking about the strategic audit, which talks about the operations, which talks about the processes, different processes in the organization, business processes, technical processes, and controls, and how we can assess their efficiency and effectiveness. So it will talk about the designing part also, and how these controls, how these processes, how the technologies is being implemented within the organization. IT security policy, if we talk about, so we need to assess with respect to the different organizations, how the policies has been defined with respect to the business goals and alignment, considering the information security, particularly cyber security we are talking about here, and how we need to assure that technical part of the processes, the compliance part of the processes, the KPIs, the matrices have been defined properly and implemented properly. Then we talk about the information security testing. So it is the process of validating effective implementation of security controls. And here in CyberSRC, we are doing all these types of testing, audits, and compliance checks, considering the different sectors and regulations with proper process, technology, and trends that we are following here. We'll talk about much more in detail in the coming slides or in the Q&As if you have any question around that. Moving on to the next slide. First, I'll cover the scope of engagements because there is a huge list of scopes of engagement in this guideline. Then we talk about the process security testing. This is specifically talking about all the processes, business processes within the organization that actually covers the information security. right? Security of the information traveling within the organization or going outside the organization. Talks about the sensitive data, systems, and applications. Then we talk about the communication security testing. Here we need to identify the communication channels within the organization first, and then ensure that the security controls around those communication channels, how they have been managed with respect to their accesses, with respect to their patching, with respect to their backups, and all those things. Application security testing. We know that we need to cover the web, mobile, and APIs definitely. If we talk about application, we need not to leave APIs. And then specifically comes on mobile application security auditing, cloud security testing. Wireless security testing is also coming out to be critical because of the attacks, network attacks these days coming up more frequently. And by simulating those attacks, we need to identify vulnerabilities, how to ensure the protection against unauthorized access and data breaches. Then we talk about the physical security testing. In this also, if we assess the client partner around this, we need to check the number of locations we need to assess, and we need to check the coverage, right, of the visitor management. We need to check the CCTV log surveillance, all those things, the environmental security, right, physical measures around the people specifically, and the systems that are those are the critical systems, right? Then we have the red team assessment, and this is a prime area of CyberSRC. Also, we have different tools, technology available here, how we are doing red teaming here for our clienteles. Digital forensic readiness assessment. We evaluate an organization preparedness, how they are prepared, considering that how they're collecting the data, preserving the data, analyzing the digital evidences in the event of security incident. Sorry, I think I some technical glitches coming. Just give me a moment. I'll be back soon. Please stay tuned. Hello, everyone. Am I audible to you all? Okay. I think I got the heads up. Thank you so much. Okay, so I was talking about the digital forensic readiness assessment. Here we actually assess the organizational preparedness through interviews, through walkthrough sessions, that how they are collecting, how they're preserving, analyzing, and digital evidence. So these all scope of engagements we also are covering, considering the certain guidelines. Some of them have come up new, and I mean, these are in the guidelines. So depending upon the industry, the applicability, right? Applicability with respect to the industry standard, industry sector, and the regulations. All the organizations need to abide by it. Moving to the next slide. These are some of the additional, because I think there are 26, list of 26 scope of engagements that are covered in the slide. So industry can pick and choose, and some of the common global recognized standards they need to abide by. So this is also talking about the IoT, IIoT security testing, ICS OT security testing, log management, and maintenance audit. So for certain, we know that how critical the log management and maintenance it is, and for the business operations and the forensic also, not only the regulations, guidelines. This is actually a crucial part for any of the organization. For endpoint security assessment, also we need to identify the endpoints and how the security is being managed, considering we need to do the simulating attacks to identify the vulnerabilities. So these days, I think VA and PT is not sufficient. So we have the things coming up like this red teaming, right? Threat intelligence solutions are coming up, and different solutions that are working on identifying the new threats and how the organization can pertain to those threats, how they can respond, defend themselves, identify first, defend, and then respond. Then we talk about the AI system audits. So it is talking about how AI systems for security, ethical alignment, transparency data. So we all know this is the AI era, how the threats are coming up with respect to the AI. So first we will evaluate the AI systems, that what kind of AI systems are there, what models are there up to, considering the AI systems, how those models are aligned with those kind of security controls. So we have a checklist around that, and we need to present like how we can map those and guide the organizations in a better way so that they can stringently and effectively manage the controls and security around those AI systems. Then we are conducting the audits, right? We are doing the real world conditions audits, where we are actually actually this is covering the pen testing, right? Red teaming, everything. So this is covering the entire list of the audits. Then we are talking about blockchain security audit, ISBOM, QBOM, and AI bomb audit. So uh, by the time the QBOM, quantum bill of materials, AI bomb has also evolved along with software bill of materials. So in CyberSRC, we have a product SBOM coming up, and soon we'll be going with QBOM and AI bomb also, considering the technology and trends that are booming up to. And we have those products available for the clients, how they can check and how they can ensure that their software they are working on, whether it is on the third party, what is the requirement, how they need to mention those things in the RFP. So all those things we guide client, we give the consultancy to the client, how they need to manage end to end. Till then, before I move on to the next slide, I would like to know if you have any questions, concerns, so that we can clarify or we can move forward.
Hasni,
Yeah.
all
Hello, sir.
the all the audit types, every organization has to do everything, or we
Mm-hmm.
choose, and what is the frequency?
Mm-hmm.
Is this notified by law? Because I see only news,
Mm-hmm.
but is this a notified law that government is really tracking it?
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. I was expecting this kind of question from the audience. So thank you for putting up this. So, sir, as I mentioned, like these are the standards, like these are the scope of engagements that the organization needs to consider with respect to their business requirement, with respect to the applicability of their regulations applied to their organization and their industry specific industry sector, right? And considering their security posture and the business requirement. Also, the thing is, like you have mentioned, that you are mentioning that there is no law against it and you have seen only news. So these are the guidelines where we need to abide by. But this is directly being touched up, and these are being directed with respect to the IT Act. So all the things with respect to the auditees, so it will be governed with respect to the IT Act. Here, as of now, there is nothing mentioned specifically, but considering the frequency, yes, it should be annual and depending upon your regulation frequency, right? But minimum it should be annual. And if you choose any of the scope of engagements, it should consider with respect to your business requirement. I hope it clarifies. If any doubt, I am happy to, I mean, additionally input my
So
Thanks.
day before yesterday or 2 days ago, there are only two websites where certain 1 year frequency is called out, nowhere else.
Right.
However, certain document which has been released, which is basis of your presentation, is dated 25th of July, and it is a version 1 only as of now. So
Right.
the analogy I'm just trying to draw, that what we as a corporate or organization need to follow is not really clear. It is similar to like a DPDA Act. Law is there, but there is no guideline, or there is no notification by government that by when it needs to be complied with. Similar situation I am seeing here. Maybe you can throw light. Maybe you can share some government notification link which help us to plan our activities in a time to come, because we don't want any violation against law. But since you people are reading more than us, it will help us to make our roadmap for next 3 months to 6 months or even 1 year.
Sure, sir. So I understand your point that there is no clarity considering the auditee's obligations against it. But the thing is, what I can say as of now, and maybe I think Vikram sir and Sakshi can also add on to it after I say. The thing is, here we need to first understand our business requirement, our regulations, our security posture, and the threats, the technologies that are booming up for you, say like AI systems, right? More and more AI systems, IoT systems, right? So all those things first we need to understand, like what are the risks around it, risk associated to it, and what could be the impact if any breach happens, right, to the sensitive data or to the client's data. So all those things first we need to assess, and we after this assessment we need to create a roadmap for organization. It depends upon organization to organization. Organization needs to create a roadmap for them, and they need to understand that what kind of scope of engagements they need to opt, because if anything happens, if any breach happens, and if we notify certain, right, they will come back and ask the organizations that is it being followed, how you were being doing, how the security postures were maintained, what kind of engagements you have done with the auditors or consultancy or the audits you have been into. So all these questions will be asked if the things happens. If the things are going smooth, then it is fine. But if someday something happens, it will it will be bombarded by the certain. The questions will be bombarded by the certain, right?
Right. And my last question, Swasni ma'am,
Yeah, yeah.
what is the obligation of the auditor, or I would specify certain empaneled auditor?
Yes.
Suppose we have an engagement with X organization, and we define our scope that, okay, you do 5 elements out of whatever you have shown. They have done the audit. Are you obligated to submit the report only to us, or you are also obligated to submit the report to certain also?
So definitely to both, and I have covered it in the coming slides also. But
Okay, fine.
as
Sure.
of now, yes to both.
We need to submit our tracking also, that suppose you have given 5 gaps. Are we supposed to inform certain that these gaps are now fulfilled, revalidation is done?
Sir, the thing is,
Yeah, Swastika,
yeah,
please
Sakshi, yeah,
allow.
Sakshi, please.
Okay,
Sure.
so hello, sir. So, sir, to add on this, in the guidelines itself, it has been mentioned that the follow-up audits, which would moreover focus on the, the checking of the closure of the findings that have been identified, are also required to be included in the scope. So, this is moreover falls on the auditor as well as auditee responsibility that this makes up, or this is to be included in the scope. Secondly, sir, moving on to whether this has to be reported to certain. So if the the identified issues or the vulnerabilities are not remediated after the timeline has been crossed, then that has to be communicated to the CERT.
No, but in that case, I can have a policy. Na? The remediation will happen after, say, 8 months, 9 months. I can be flexible, right?
So remediation timelines would specifically, again, there's nothing specifically mentioned regarding the remediation timelines. It would firstly depend on how critical the particular issue is, and then on the other, kind of requirements that are applicable on the organization.
See,
as per the
criticality has criticality has the aspect of context also. Suppose our servers are not exposed to internet. CVSS score may be
Sorry to
9.
intervene.
CVSS score may be 9, but in our context, we say it is medium risk. Okay,
Sir,
so you can take other people question.
yeah, sir,
Most
definitely I will note it down, right, your questions, and definitely you can put on your questions in the chat so that we can cover maximum questions through emails also. We can reply to you through emails to all of you. And considering the timelines, let's move forward, right? Okay. So here in this slide, we'll be talking about like how the auditors and auditees, because these slides, the coming 2 slides, these are specifically referring the audit standards, cybersecurity audit standards under these guidelines. It talks about that how auditors, if you start from the left, utilizing industry standards. So here the auditor needs to adopt these standard methodologies, best practices, security testing, avoiding resilience on automated solely tools, right? Not only single tools, so we need to use the multiple tools considering the different domains, right? What domain we are testing web, we are testing network, we are testing servers. We need to understand what kind of different tools, or we need to sometimes follow up it with the manual testing also for the effective testing, right? To understand the vulnerabilities of the system better. So this is for the auditors, and definitely we are adopting the standards, comprehensive frameworks, considering different domains like whether it is web, whether it is mobile, WSTG, MSTG, OBAS guidelines, cloud control metrics, right? Maturity model. There is also the framework for the CI/CD security. So we need to adopt each and every framework considering the domain. This is the requirement from the CERT-In. And then we need to incorporate the certain guidelines. Here I have attached the links, and definitely this PPT will be shared with you all, so you can refer to it parallelly. Coming to the most important part, because in the guideline it's been highlighted, right? For the audits, where the applications are the critical databases, critical applications and databases, considering you can say any sector, right? Public, private, government sector, the auditing organization, this is for the auditees, right? And the auditors also, they must verify the compliance with this comprehensive audit program checklist, which covers 282 controls. And these guidelines auditors need to refer. But the inventory of those critical applications, databases, and platforms, all these things needs to be managed by the auditee organization. So there is a mutual collaboration between the auditee and the auditors. Moving to the next slide. Here we are talking about the policies, compliance review, like how the auditors, they need to verify that the existing policies of the organization with respect to their particular standards and best practices, how they need improvements, right, if required. And also considering the applicability of the scope, like if the software is being developed in-house or the third party, we'll talk about it later. But yes, definitely if it is in-house, the auditee organizations, this is for the auditees, they must ensure the applications are designed and developed using secure practices, right? SDLC. Considering the guidelines here, I have provided the link, right? And before the audit starts, both the auditee and auditor organizations, they must confirm like there is a secure development or not, for which the auditor is doing the testing. Then definitely this guideline is for the continual improvement. So the auditing process, it should be seen like there should be a continually improvement in the posture of the organization. because here the auditors are following the standards, frameworks, different types of tools. They are using the risk-based methodologies, and they are doing the domain-specific approach, right? Whether it is web, network. So they are aligned. Auditors are aligned with the organization's business context. So all the risk-based approach is being followed with respect to the organization for which the audit is being conducted. Now we'll talk more about auditee responsibilities. As we know that you all are here, so to understand more that what is new into it and what has been added. So here specifically I've highlighted the bold points where I could see, like in this guideline, it's been added specifically that under leadership, governance and oversight, top management must approve the audit program scope and ensure timely remediation of identified vulnerabilities. Maintaining cybersecurity is the auditee organization's responsibility, not the auditors. So we as an auditor are here to recommend you. We as an auditor can identify the findings, vulnerabilities, and provide the recommendation. But auditee needs to are the responsible person for maintaining the cybersecurity of their organization. Audit frequency and scope should be reported annually. This is bold, excluding sensitive or specific technical details. So it is minimum annually, and depending upon the criticality of that resource or any major change happens, so that I have covered in the tabular format in the next coming slides, where we can bifurcate from annually and we can reduce it to that, considering the organization's requirement. Then we are talking about risk acceptance and exception handling, how the risk treatment actions, basic criteria, retain, avoid, transfer, and reduce, the methodologies under risk treatment, how these needs to be reported against the vulnerabilities. So this needs to be I think this is a mutual collaboration between the auditee and the auditors, because auditors will define this risk and the auditee needs to identify that how they need to retain, avoid, transfer, or reduce the risk with respect to the recommendations, so that it will help the auditors to accept the findings. Exceptions to application vulnerabilities must be approved by the application owners, that is head of the organization. Then coming to the remediation and follow-up, the auditee organization, it is responsible for implementing recommended actions to enhance security and mitigate risks. Audit findings must be acted upon to improve IT security. And also the identified vulnerabilities should be patched, considering the best industry best practices timeline for critical, high, medium, and low. There is no specified timelines for the patching with respect to certain guidelines, but yes, definitely with respect to the different regulators and the industry best practices. Responsibility of fixing the vulnerabilities lies with the auditee organizations. Follow-up audits must be included in the scope or RFP. So this is both for the auditors and organizations, that RFP needs to be designed like this to avoid any confusion with respect to the follow-up audits. Any question till now? Okay. So coming back to the auditee responsibilities, some other responsibilities are internal monitoring and development practices, how they are monitoring, they are doing the continuous assessment of their internal audit reports, their security posture, right? And analyzing the corrective actions and preventive actions. They must ensure the availability of the required skill experience. So auditee organizations should definitely understand that what kind of skill sets is required to for these kind of the internal assessments, the maintaining the security posture of the organization, so that they can direct the security posture of the organization correctly. Secure by design principle and secure development practices is mandatory in RFPs to be mentioned. Coming to application handling and audit artifacts, No code changes should be made to the audited application or infrastructure after the audit certificate is issued. So this is very important point because this is an actual pain area for the auditors, and this is the forum where we can put the things where the mutual collaboration is required. Auditee must capture and share audit-related artifacts, example, hash values, versions, timestamps with the auditing organization. Because we as an auditor, when submit the report to CERT-In, these kind of things are being mandated by CERT-In to ensure that the application, there is no change being done in the application of the testing. These artifacts must be clearly included in the audit certificate and reports. Version control, change management should be enforced to the trace audit or assets. Most importantly, a designated reviewer, not part of the audit team. So in CyberSRC, what we do is we have defined different levels to review the reports. Basically, who will be the tester, and one person who is designing the report, considering the testers' input points, and then we have a manager above it, technical manager, who is reviewing the reports technically, analyzing the scenarios, the testing tools they have been opted, whether the report has been designed in the certain format correctly or not. Then there is one level above, quality level, where the quality person is not the part of the testing, and also technical manager is not part of the testing team. So there we maintain a segregation of duties in reviewing the reports. Head of auditing organization, director, partner, and CEO, they need to sign the final report. And this is for the information for both the auditee and the auditor. Okay, so auditee responsibilities in cybersecurity audits, nothing new in it. We all know that under asset management infrastructure security, what auditee needs to perform, auditee organization, they need to define their scope, where the auditor gets the scope of work with respect to that. They need to define the assets for which the testing needs to be done. And they need to maintain an inventory considering all the scoped hardware or software assets depending upon the scope of work. Patch management implementation for all the software applications and firmware needs to be done by the auditee. Principle of least privilege, restricted access. So all these parts are not new. They are already being done by the auditee organization. So I'm not highlighting this much. Okay, so considering the timelines, I will not read out these slides, but definitely you can read out the bold part later. For the auditors, how we are handling the data efficiently, effectively, and in a secure way. Confidentiality and integrity of the data is maintained. We are fully, effectively maintaining the CERT-In brand compliance, for which CERT-In has issued certain pointers. Now checking the quality control of the auditing organization, like how we are doing how we are saving the data, handling the data, how we are engaging with the auditees, right? How we are doing the engagements with the CERT-In, right? How we are managing and maintaining their reports, right? And we know, like, if we are not doing anything compliant with respect to the CERT-In guidelines, so there is there could be action under deter and punish framework. So all this, for all these things, as a certain empanel auditor, all the organizations needs to perform this. This is most important part, selection of the auditor, because as an auditee, you need to understand that how you need to select the auditors, right? That meets the evaluation criteria, right? Where they need to be certain empaneled, they need to follow the certain empanelment guidelines, how the skill set of the team members is, right? There should not be any freelancers, freshers to the assigned projects or the scope that you have asked to the auditors to do, right? Their domain expertise and all those things. So as a certain empanel auditor, certain empanel auditor should actually do the background verification checks. All the personnel should be listed, right? In the snapshot information form submitted to CERT-In should be deployed for the audits. And most importantly, I will highlight this point, contractual guidelines. So this is very important point for the auditee organization. Let me know if you agree to it, because as an auditor, for an auditor, if you hire some auditor, right, for 1 year, and then next year maybe due to any challenge the thing doesn't work, so technically it is okay, but eventually if the feedback is good, the auditee organizations should award the audit contracts, right, for critical or high usage application for 2 to 3 years to enable continuous audits at defined intervals, so that the same auditor who can better guide and better recommend to the auditee, respective auditee organization, with their technology trends and domain expertise, right? Any questions as of now? Okay, so we need to check for the planning, how we need to plan the audit. It is for both auditees and auditors. Why I am saying both? Because this guideline is specifically for both. This is mentioning for both. Everything they have defined for auditees as well and auditors as well. So I'll just give for the auditors, you can read it out. Yeah. This could be the interesting part for you. Like all of the things are maintained. Actually, auditees are doing it, but definitely this has been mentioned in the guidelines. So we need to be very particular how we are preparing our audit environment, how we are segregating the audit environment, right? Test environment, production environment, and what kind of accesses we are providing, right? Credentials are we are providing, and we auditee should understand that they need to revoke access and all those things, access management. Monitoring of the audit executions, auditee needs to monitor that how the audit is happening, right, with respect to the agreed scope and timelines, and adhering to the regulatory guidance. This is the trigger conditions where I need to focus more. Like there is a minimum audit frequency. I think Umesh sir has asked, and many of you have the same questions. The annual audit is mandatory, right? And cybersecurity audits must be conducted at least once every year, right? Based on the size of the organization. If you see to the next row, it is talking about the based on the size of the organization, criticality of the assets, complexity of the digital infrastructure, right? And most importantly, third row, based on the risk appetite. That's what I said, that considering you need to assess your risk first, business risks, and understand that how your critical assets are being defined and how you need to plan the roadmap for them. Then if I mean, this is annually, but if you talk about this change management process, sorry, change management process, changes classified as minor change, low risk, non-critical, no audit required. But if major change happens, this is a high risk and it is impactful, so cybersecurity audit is required. So if it happens, change happens within a year, so then you need to also conduct the audit again. So frequency would be revised. If it is before 1 year of the audit, once you have started the, I mean, you did the commencement of the audit, your audit got final, and any change happens immediately within 2-3 months before a year is over, then you need to conduct the audit again. Also, this applies to the infrastructure application changes and affecting security or critical systems. Periodic audits without major changes, and for example, if your audits are, I mean, if your assets are not critical, not major changes have happened, so periodic audits are required, but there is no mandate that you need to revise it from the 1 year to 6 months or 8 months, 9 months, depending upon the changes that are happening in your environment. Any question around this? Because I am expecting a lot of questions around this slide. Okay, assuming that no questions, otherwise I'll see the chat box, question and answer box. Identification. So we'll talk about the identification and inclusion of critical assets. So these are the points that auditing needs to consider, right? You need to identify your critical assets. And if you have actually include the database configurations audits also for the critical databases, you need to include DAS, SAS for critical applications, and SAST is mandatory, right? If you do the procurement from the other outsiders, system integrators, right? SAST is mandatory and it should be clearly stated in the RFPs and tenders. So I am highlighting RFP and tenders again and again. Audit team planning and stakeholder coordination. So audit team, you need to ensure the availability of the outsourced organization, third-party organization, because we know third-party risks are actually a very critical risk, right? And we need to understand the severity of those third-party risks. We need to understand the availability of the outsourced organization during this audit. They need to document all the actions and methods. Technical team should be assigned as a point of contact for the auditors. This is a general statement, right? Regular interactions are required between the technical team of the auditee and the auditors. Okay, this is a good example. If we talk about like if we have hosted our website over the third-party infrastructure, right? So the hosting organization is responsible for the auditing. The third-party organization is responsible for the auditing because the infrastructure, the website is hosting at their infrastructure. Web server, OS, hosting software, backend DBs, website content owner is responsible for auditing website data scripts and application components. So if an auditee is, doing only the they have the, I think, following the SaaS model, right? The infrastructure is hosted at the third party. So they are only responsible for the auditing of the website data, scripts, and application components. Rest, the third party is responsible for having this audit done for the servers and OS. Website owner must, just a second. Okay, so yes, I was telling the thing that the responsibility, considering where the third party comes into the picture, so their responsibility is to have the audit done for the servers, for OS, right? However, the audit organization, auditors, what they do is they check the contract for the auditees, like how the contract has been mentioned, their races, how the races have been mentioned, so that they can identify that the responsibility and the compliance side of it. Now we'll talk about the secure handling of the reports and data. Definitely a secure mechanism for storing and destroying of audit reports is being followed. Secure handling of the reports during transit and at rest. Definitely all certain empaneled auditors follow this, and also at CyberSRC we are sending the encrypted reports through communication, through email communication, and keeping the data secure at rest. Definitely we have the disposal timelines for audit reports and related data. Okay, so agreeing on the terms of the engagement, how we are doing it, we need to have the formal engagement agreement, how essential it is, right, before starting an audit. Responsibilities must be clearly defined in the agreement, and expectations should be outlined prior to the engagement, right, in the scope of work and in the SOP, right? Revisions to the audit scope are allowed. Any revisit must be proposed in writing with the proper justification. So any revisions to the audit scope, it should be properly documented in writing, because we are actually, both auditee and auditor organizations are facing these challenges because revisions happen to the audit scope. So how we need to do that, it should be documented and jointly reviewed to assess its impact on the timelines, resources, and deliverables. And definitely, if it happens during the time of the testing, for example, in the initial testing, the scope was of 40 assets, but till the time it comes to the final testing, the scope has reduced due to any reason, right? So it should be reported in the exclusions with the proper metadata being mentioned to the CERT-In. So this is something like forming an opinion, confusion, and reporting how the report formats have been maintained, sign off and review process, risk mapping, and everything. We have already talked about it. Communications with the ID governance, how we are communicating and maintaining, for example, the entry and exit conferences. They are crucial open and exit meetings because it covers all the scope and how we have conducted the audit, what things we have covered and how we have covered. And engagement ensures that both parties understand the expectations and objective, right? Alignment is necessary for effective audits. So in the exit meetings, definitely auditee understands that auditor has conducted the audit with respect to the certain guidelines and with respect to their expectations. Audit evidence and documentation, we have talked about it, how we are maintaining this audit evidences. This is the consequences of non-compliance for the auditors. Right, so this has been mentioned specifically in the certain guidelines for the auditors, but for the auditee, it is being governed with respect to the IT Act. This is the feedback mechanism. CERT-In asks if any feedback from the auditees, from the auditors with respect to to enhance the guidelines and relevance and effectiveness. Definitely, we can provide the feedback. So this is for you to adopt these guidelines. Okay. Okay, I think, thank you. Just a minute. We are open to Q&A session. Anyone, any question? We're happy to answer.
Thanks everyone for joining in. I'm sure you must have had a good time, good learning. Please use this learning. We are open to questions. I know it's very fresh. We're reading a lot about it. There will be definitely questions coming to your mind or in discussions. Please route those questions to us. We'll try to answer them. We have been helping organizations across to comply with various certain guidelines and regulations. We'll be happy to ensure the smooth, process forth, and we'll look forward for more queries from your end. We'll like to if there are queries which is specific to CERT, also you can please mention us. We will route those queries to certain. Obviously, those questions should be generally is an industry question. We will look at those aspects. I don't think so. We have any more question which I see here. If you have any questions, you can ask right now. I will be happy to answer if we can. If no, I think we will be what we as an outcome what we're going to give you, and as a thank you note, as we're going to offer you the slide, which you can take it up. You can use the slide, present to your management. You can send it to your team, the security team, so that they understand the requirement. These are all sensitive and critical requirements, and will have a direct and long-term impact on the overall compliances. The question regarding whether this is mandatory, the word which is mentioned in, if you read it carefully, it is written it is expected as per the guidelines. And when they expect, so obviously you should look at thinking of these guidelines for me are kind of mandatory guidelines that you should adhere. I think you must adhere to ensure that your organization can remain compliant to the IT Act. So thank you. Have a great day, great time. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for your time today. Thank you too much. Thank you. Take care.